You, Alice, and we look forward to having you back in the Bay Area. Hi, everybody. I am Debbie, and I'm an alcoholic. And I am delighted to be here. And thank you for the invitation. I love the 11th step. Of course, I enjoy all of them, but there's something somewhat magical and ad infinitum and never ending about step 11 because it is one that I will never perfect. I mean, not that we perfect any, but it's something that always has an opportunity to just slightly change a little bit to have a new freshness about it. And that's one of the things I love so much about it. The reason I chose that is because that sentence pulled out of context can have so many meanings to it. It can refer to the discipline as what we just covered in step 11 in the big book, which has how to start your day, how to go through your day, and how to close your day. And I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like for me. It also guides me in the discipline they've just outlined, could be the first 11 steps. And so it's not limited. And that's one of the reasons I chose it, because it has such, I can speak to a variety of things on it. But the 11th step, if I took the step itself and personalized it, that's about as out of me as I could possibly become. And what that sounds like is I seek through what method, prayer and meditation, to do what? To improve my conscious contact with God as we understood him. And what do I do with this conscious contact? I pray only for the knowledge of your will for me and the power to carry whatever that is today out. And bringing that kind of spirit into it is about as zeroed out of Debbie as I can possibly get, and open it up for as much of God as possible, humanly possible to do. And that's why I like it, because there will be days when it feels like it's open a bitty, teeny, tiny wedge, and others where it feels like it's the Grand Canyon. And what's changed? I can't tell you. Maybe it's me that's changed. Maybe it's the spiritual condition of the day. I don't know. But I don't stop doing it. I continue to do it. And so part of what I do in the morning, everybody has a different thing. And that's, again, there is no one way. There are so many things a person can do. You could Google it and get pages and pages of ideas. What I've simplified it to do for me is, well, what I got to is that I have like 6 things that I read. And for a period of time, I thought, oh, you should do the kind of meditation. Then you're really doing meditation. Well, with a squirrel brain like I've got, that doesn't go real well. And in a guided meditation, I find myself falling asleep. So I found meditation in a different way for me. And I would, but don't use my lack of, persistence to not encourage you to do that. I've just found my own different way to be meditating. Okay, so I thought, well, gosh, you should remember everything you read. And so I would start making little cliff notes, like what was the highlight of today's reading? And then I'd forget that stuff. And probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I realized my reading is my meditation. It is hearing the nudges of God. It is feeling the warm connection. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm not somebody who drops to my knees. I get up, I've got about 20 minutes of personal business to do. And by the time I'm back in my office, now I am conscious. Because you see, I don't want to miss anything by being so sleepy and groggy, which I am in the morning, I come up in layers and I'm not quite fully conscious just getting out of bed. I wish I was somebody who popped up, boom, I'm awake. That is not me. I'm about 20 minutes into movement and then I'm conscious. So I go into my office and I choose to get on my knees, not for any religious purposes. It is to start my day with some humility, to be focused with my purpose on my knees is to start with humility and begin my conscious connection with this higher power. And so we have a little chat. Good morning, God. Thank you for another sober day and another day that I can serve you. Thank you for the many gifts you've given me, the ones I know about and the many I don't. Please guide me in all that I do today so that I may better serve you better. And maybe there's something on my mind, like it says on Awakening, that we may not know how to do things. We relax, we take it easy. And I do that many times. If I've got something a little nerve-wracking on my mind, I know that you know how the outcome is already going to be. I just need to show up for the event. I cannot control the outcome. It's already known to you. It's just not known to me. And so we have a little chat. And then I say out loud, because I can get lost if I don't, step 3, and I back it up with step 7 prayers. It's kind of like this 1-2 punch. Both of them are asking me to set me aside for the purpose of better serving you, God. That's what they both say, speak to me. And so that's what I do. Then I get up, then I start my readings. Some readings are produced by AA or Grapevine. Some are not. And every year I'll switch out one daily reader for something new just to kick it up. I have, and then I always end with the Grapevine. That's like dessert. And I read an article out of the Grapevine. And it's always amazing to me. You know, I used to think I had to read the Grapevine in one sitting. I don't know where I got that. But I overheard somebody one time, you might have called, you might think it was eavesdropping. I just happened to overhear them say that they read a Grapevine article in the morning with their meditation. I thought, oh, I like that. I can do that. That's a great idea. So I started doing that, and I absolutely just love that. Okay, so now that's how I start my day. Now we go through our day, which is really only one paragraph, if you will. As we go through our day, we pause when agitated or doubtful. I'm rarely doubtful. I am frequently agitated, though, let me tell you. We pause. And what do? I'm supposed to ask for the right thought or decision. Typically, it's stop, do nothing, say nothing, do not respond. Because see, when I pause, that allows God to swoop in, put a buffer in there so that I end up replying. When I don't pause, I react and respond. Not good. I often regret having done that. Should have taken a moment to either reread that or thought about how I would have received that email or text or whatever if I had paused to respond. Pausing has 90% of the time saved me from making a lot of amends. Let me tell you, because I was a reactor and I didn't know about the value of pausing. And so it has helped me a great deal. One time I heard someone say, for every year I'm sober, I get one more second of pause. Okay, well, my sobriety date is February 8, 1976. That's the experience I'm bringing to you, which is 48 years. So I guess I get 48 seconds of pause. It sure goes by fast, let me tell you. It really does. The years of sobriety and the pause, 48 seconds of pause goes by awful fast too. But thank goodness for that, because God then gets that opportunity to swoop in. So going through the day, I love that so much, because another thing that I love about it is that reminding me we are then in much less danger. So the next several items are apparently dangerous to me: excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, and my personal favorite, foolish decisions. Yeah, that is my personal favorite. And so I'm disciplined to pause. I'm disciplined to start my day with God. And now we close out our day with a review at night. Some people will call it step 10. I call it step 11 because it is part of the 11th step, part of my creating my conscious contact. And so when we retire at night, it guides us with several questions. And now I don't sit down and ask myself each of these questions anymore. I know the gist of them, and the value of them is kind of, so how did I do today, God? What was, if I were to write my report card, what would that look like? It's asking me a series of questions. And it says I'm going to make a constructive review. Now, a lot of times when I start sponsoring people, they're strong in the morning connection, kind of weak on this one. And this is, again, I'm back on my knees and I'm asking myself these questions so I can stay focused, and with a little humility. And I find that if I did not clean up whatever I should have cleaned up during the day with step 10, this is my catch basket as I review the day. Oh, yeah. I do need to call them. That I was a little short with them this morning, a little snarky. I feel bad about doing X, Y, or Z, or cutting somebody off. I wasn't in that much of a hurry. I could have just as easily let them move on through. Who knows? That maybe they were, on the way to the hospital or something. I don't know. But these kinds of things. Was I kind and loving toward all? Do I owe an apology? Was I resentful or selfish or dishonest or afraid any all today? Do I need to talk something over with my sponsor right away? Boy, I tell you, the longer I'm sober, the more I don't like being uncomfortable, where it's got that little bunch of red flags going on and the discomfort, and I've maybe got a personality issue with somebody or problem. Oh, those are so uncomfortable. And I always look forward to being able to review that with my sponsor, because she's not emotionally involved with the problem as I am. And she's not invested in the solution or the turnout, what happens, like I am. And then I love that he says, but don't drift into that worry, remorse, and morbid reflection. Oh God, I'm just the worst AA ever. Oh, come on. That's that ego in reverse. Because that, when I go there, I diminish my usefulness. And isn't that what I asked God to help me with that morning? Yeah. So after we make that review, we ask God's forgiveness, and he's the most forgiving of spirits I know, and ask what corrective measures should be taken. Pretty much at this point, I know, but if still in doubt, I run that by my sponsor. One little funny I have to tell you. So a sponsee of mine had his 30-year birthday party 10 years ago now, and they were handing out bookmarks a friend had made for him. And so I went over and I said, "Oh, John, who did your bookmarks for you?" "Oh, why, is there a problem?" I said, well, there's just one little typo in there I was just curious about. He said, "Well, Ben did." So I go over to Ben and I said, "Ben, I love these bookmarks. I understand you did." He said, "Yeah, what's wrong with them?" I said, "Well, there's just one little typo." Now, on one side was the third step prayer, and on the other side was the first prayer, was just this line on awakening. And it said, it's supposed to read, Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. However, what was printed, I mean, of all the words to make a boo-boo on, our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our drinking is cleared of wrong motives. I mean, of all the words from thinking to drinking, it's like, now I know what my problem was. I had wrong motives. Okay, now I know. I mean, it was precious, just precious. Could have been stinking or winking, but no, it was drinking. And we had a big laugh out of that. But I also have been disciplined in the prior steps. I have come to realize let's see, that I am powerless, not just over alcohol, but many things. And I've also come to admit my life is unmanageable and I needed a new manager. I've come to believe in the strangest of experiences, the discipline that I've come to believe that I can be restored to sanity when insanity might creep in. And again, it's for me not limited to drinking. That's my number one. That's a killer. That I have made a decision, and I make that decision every single day to turn my will and my life over to the care, not the control, but the care of God. And I've made that inventory as deep as I can go. And I've told someone about it. And with 6, I'm continuously reviewing the objectionables, the things that are defective of my character that cause me and or other people harm. And with 7, I'm looking, what is the contrary action? Yes, it's in collaboration with God, but I've got to put some skin in this game. I can't just say anger is a problem and then blow up and say, well, I guess God didn't remove that one today. No, you didn't pause, Deb. You have some responsibility to collaborate with that higher power on. But I know they're just below the surface. I know that because I can be tootling along just great and I'm not feeling well, or I'm tired, or I'm hungry, the halt is going on. All those things can rise to the surface like little beacons, and they can get out of hand quickly if I am not in the right spiritual frame of mind. So I have I look at those on a regular basis. They are very evident in my life. And I've made that list, and to the best of my knowledge, all those amends are made, cleaned up, cleared up, and I live a different way of life today. And with 10, it's my responsibility to check how I'm doing, to review that day, to promptly make amends when not if I've been wrong, when I'm wrong. Not, there's no if about it, that, to take my own responsibility about that. But I got to tell you, there's something also in step 11 in the 12 and 12 I want to share about. There have been times in my life, not a whole lot. I mean, there have been people who've really had tragedy after tragedy after heartache after trouble. And I've had a couple in my life and known that even when I said my prayers that night, even though it felt like a really, really dark, dark day, I thanked God for another sober day, and that I'm going to bed sober. I'm not passing out. I'm going to sleep with intention. 5 minutes? Is that it? Oh, okay. So I know that I went to bed sober that night, even though it was a dark day. And I know that whatever this is, you are going to use it for good in my life. And so depending upon which book you have, but in step 11, in this particular printing, page 105, it's talking about, we discover that we do receive guidance, and I rely on that guidance. for our lives to just about the extent that we stop making demands upon God to give it to us on our order and our terms. Almost any experienced AA will tell how his affairs have taken remarkable and unexpected turns for the better as he tried to improve his conscious contact with God. Here's the thing I love. He will also and I read this paragraph over and over. It was back in the day when you carried your calendar around. This was in the back of my calendar. He will also report that out of every season of grief or suffering, when the hand of God seemed heavy or even unjust, new lessons for living were learned, new resources of courage were uncovered, and that finally, inexplicably, the conviction came that God does move in a mysterious way his wonders to perform. And I think what moved me when I first would be reading this is it's like Bill knew, not that he wasn't human, but he had this way of picking up words like when the hand of God seemed heavy or even unjust, that it was like, yeah, you get that. You get that. Sometimes we might say that, why me? Why did it happen to me? Why can't I ever get well or get out of financial hell or have a kind person? Why did my child have to die? Not that anybody's that, but whatever that hurt and pain is, feeling heavy or even unjust. And I would look at that and it would just move my heart so much. I have one fun story to tell you. Nash, how much time do I have left?
You have 10 minutes left, Debbie.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, it was John. I thank you, John. Okay, so this kind of a fun story. So I live in the Pacific region, and every first weekend in March, we have what's called the PRASA, Pacific Region of Alcoholics Anonymous Service Assembly. You probably have one in your areas and regions. And so this happened to be one of these where it was a blizzard weekend. We were going over on Friday and we got into the 2-hour window that the road was open between here through the pass and get to Reno. So we arrived safely, and I'm driving, and when you're driving in inclement, horrible weather conditions, it's like ×2 in exhaustion, right? So we get there, we get there. I'm just able to be there for Friday night because the sponsee's husband had died and the service was the next day. So I'm up in the morning, driving back from Reno, get home safely. And again, this is exhausting because it's ice and snowy and crap. I get there, get to her husband's service, be able there to support her. And then I thought, hey, we have a big monthly meeting here in the East Bay called the Danville Speaker Meeting. And they give out chips, and I'm never there the first Saturday of March because I always miss the cutoff being February 8th. So, and I don't take fronts, not allowed. So I have to wait till March. Well, I'm never there because I'm always at PRASA. Well, this night I happen to be there. Hey, I'll go and go to the meeting and get my chip. Okay, so I get there. I am so whoop dog tired, but I'm there, and we buy raffle tickets. Well, the raffle tickets are for books. And so they start calling off the raffle tickets. There's 6 books to give away. I won 3 of them that night. I'm like, bonus. Now, when I'm in the audience and I'm not winning any, I always think if you win more than one, you should let that one go. And I thought, well, I think that way, but I'll be more spiritual next time. I want to win all 3. So, so before the meeting started, I'm talking to these 3 women next to me, and they're all newcomers. They're all in their first 90 days kind of thing. So I win these 3 tickets, these 3 books. All I'm going to do is give them away anyway. So I'm thinking something says you've got 3 tickets, 3 winning tickets. You got 3 newcomers. Say, girls, would you each like a ticket? I have plenty of books. Why don't you go back at the end of the meeting? You can go and get the book of your choice. Okay, so boy, aren't I spiritual? Isn't that wonderful? So now the meeting starts. The speaker, he was kind of monotone. So, you know, when you're tired, you're kind of do that fade in, fade out. Your eyes go up in your head, and then you startle awake and you hear some things. I bought the tape just to see what it was that I heard so I can give it back clearly. He was talking about he had followed a girl. Now we girls follow guys and guys follow us to this agape meeting, which is, for those who don't know what it is, it's not religious, but it's like spiritual in nature. You can look it up for a better definition. And so he follows this girl, and I don't know what the person at the podium is called. I'll just call him the preacher. He says to the audience, what's the most common word for God? And they had people yelling from the audience, Jesus, Muhammad, Allah, you know, all kinds of words. And he says, the most common word for God is something. Something told me to turn left. Something told me to call that person. And I sat back in my chair like I'd been pushed. Something told me, you got 3 tickets and 3 new girls. I rely on those somethings. I really rely on, you know, God, I need to come up with this, whatever it is, and help clear my mind to have that inspiration. And I would say the vast majority of time, without having this laser beam focus, boom, the idea comes into my mind of how to do or what to do. I will get the creativity. If it doesn't flow, I know don't do anything right now. If you can't see the vision of it, don't do it. And so that's something I rely on, that those nudges, those invisible nudges at the meetings. And so I hope that something is active in your life too. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I appreciate being here with all of you and seeing so many friends. Thank you.
Hey, family, let's put our hands up and let's ask Debbie some questions. Debbie, what a beautiful share. I will always remember something. The most common word for God is something. Yeah. Okay. So to kick things off, I'm going to call on you guys. Come on, Sarah, come on in.
Thank you, Alice. I'm Sarah. I'm an alcoholic. Debbie, thank you for your lead. I've just had a rough couple hours and I've been struggling. And you really perked me up because I'm dealing with the loss of my husband. It's only been 3 weeks. And I would like to know the page where you talked about when the hand of God seems heavy or unjust. What page was that on?
105. In this particular printing, if it's not directly on 105, it's going to be right around there. It is the third from the end paragraph of the chapter in the 12 and 12. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you,
Sure.
Debbie.
Thank you, Sarah. We're so glad you're here. We're here every Tuesday. We are your family, and a lot of us have our numbers and our names. Feel free to give us a call. Okay, my friend Marilyn. Marilyn, come on in, Marilyn.
Thank you so much, Alice. My name is Marilyn. I am alcoholic. And Debbie, thank you so much. What a lovely, lovely lead. You said so many things. I took so many notes. But what I'd like to get a little bit more of, I really appreciate what the young lady just shared on too, when the hand of God, because I'm going through something right now and I needed that sentence. But you talked about, so we let God discipline us in this way. When I first read that, because I'm, was so rebellious, I'm like, discipline, I don't need nobody discipline. I took it in that way, right? But you were talking that this is a different type of discipline, right? Guidance, more or less, directions. Could you give me a little more on the type of discipline that God is doing through this 11th step? I just love to hear you talk.
Thanks for the question, Marilyn. The discipline is constantly bringing me to God. We often hear this sentence, God will never give you any more than you can handle. And I gotta disagree. Years ago, I heard a speaker say, actually, God always gives you more than you can handle, so that you will constantly go to him and rely on him, and to have my back. I mean, God never makes conditions on me like I might make on people. He never has conditions. And so this is just learning a new go-to. I go to God, not booze. I go to God, not bad spending. I go to God, not bad eating, not destructive things. I go to constructive things, which is going to God and asking to be as open to his message as I can. And again, it doesn't have to be a big thing, or it can be very seemingly insignificant, but it's causing me stress, trouble, problem, clarity, lack of clarity, personal unhappiness, whatever. And so that's what that discipline does for me, is it causes me to pause more and to continue to go to God for the answers.
Thank you. Cynthia, you're up next.
Gee, Debbie, what a really good share. I mean, was really enlightening, and it gives me a lot to practice. And I feel a connection to your share because how you shared when you wake up in the morning and the things that you do. And sometimes I feel like, I have a real busy time in the morning too. And sometimes I feel like I'm neglecting God, but I really can't really concentrate until I do what I have to do right away. And it takes me like a couple hours. So, but I really want to thank you for that connection. But I also want to say, ask you, you said pause is important. It saves you. You said that when you pause, when you agitated, you said stop, do nothing, say nothing, because pause is important because it saves you. And I forget what you said after that. It saves you from something, and I'm not sure.
From making a lot of amends.
Okay. Can I just ask you one more question with that question? Do
Sure.
you think that when you don't pause, and so you said it saves you from making a lot of amends. So I make those mistakes when I don't pause. Do you feel like it's a character defect when I don't pause and I say something or do something? Is it my character defects interfering?
Oh yeah. In my case, it is, because one of my number one defect of character is self-righteousness. And if I don't pause, I'm going to give that unsolicited advice or that snarky remark or tell you what to do. And if I had paused, I'd find that was not necessary, and it's going to cause more problems and harm you and maybe hurt your feelings. And I had no business. I wasn't invited to say anything. So yes, that the defects of character definitely moved to the forefront without pausing. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. So we've got Calvin. Calvin, you are up next, and then my friend Carol. Oh, you're muted, my friend. Come on, Calvin.
Hello, everybody. My name's Calvin, and I'm an alcoholic. And it's good to be here. Thank you, Debbie, for a good message. You know, and I got the same thing that Sin was talking about. You know, with the pause, I can do that pretty well most days. Every now and then I don't, and that's okay. But I can pause, but I eat the pain sometimes. I eat the disturbance. The disturbance still is inside me. I know restrain the tongue and pen really well. But then the disturbances, and then I have to go and pray. One time I was on a towpath, and this is last year, I got a GoPro on my head, I'm riding my e-bike. And the guy asked me, why are you here? Right? And I wanted to say I'm aggressive by nature. But I know restrain the tongue and pen, I didn't say nothing. But I know if I didn't go to prayer immediately, Debbie, that I was going to take this dude home with me and sleep with him all night long. And that's my issue. And what you do when that happens, when the disturbance, you can turn it inward. What happens then, Debbie? You know, thank you.
What happens when I turn my disturbance inward? Is that your question, Calvin? Okay. Well, you're so right. A lot of times when I am disturbed in that way, two things come to mind. Number one, in step 10, we know about whenever, a spiritual axiom, whenever we're disturbed, there's something wrong with us. And I'll say to myself, so why is that person, place, or thing disturbing you? And the answer is always the same. They're not doing what I want them to do. They're not behaving the way I think they should. It's like I'm their puppet master, and they're being resistant. But secondly, what I also find too is that if I can write it out, we either write it out by hand, but I type faster than I write, and just blah, 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 I don't know, it's not going anywhere. It's just getting the emotional poison out so it doesn't get a chance to build. That is good enough. I spill it out. I don't worry about editing or grammar. I just blah. And then I delete it. And it's like, I just gave it to God. It's not, no one on earth is going to see it, but I needed to I will not sleep. I allow that to stay inside. So that's been the other helpful thing for me when I'm that disturbed and it's just doing crazy 8 loops in my head. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you,
Carol.
Calvin. Thank you, Debbie. Carol, it's so good to see you. Come on in.
Thanks, Alice. Everybody does service. Hi, everybody. I'm an alcoholic, and my name's Carol. I'm grateful to be here. And Debbie, I love you. And I love what you shared about something. And that's even in our big book with a capital S. I've had, sometimes I think God just gives me a lot to see how much before I let go and give it to God. But what you were sharing with the something told me, those are what I equate to in our step 11 where it says intuitive thoughts. And I ask God for those intuitive thoughts maybe in the morning, but sometimes God gives them to me later on, not always right then. Are you finding that too? Sometimes I get them right away, but sometimes God's got a delay because maybe I'm not ready or the situation isn't ready or whatever that is. Have you found that as well? And do you ever hesitate? Because sometimes it's like, did I really hear that? Do I really need to do that now?
I absolutely relate to sometimes quickly, sometimes later. Yes, I sure do. And that's when I have finally learned not to just forge ahead until I really do feel confident about the plan. And I mean, I'm not saying like, I'm going to wait 3 days to eat before I can decide what kind of a sandwich I want. Of course, that's you know, silly, but like we're doing a remodel of a room, and I've acquired some things, but we haven't begun the work yet. I have a vision, but it hasn't presented the time to do it yet. And so I haven't gone forward. And I always find when there isn't this move to go forward, I always realize, oh, now I know why there was the delay. It, you know, the whatever now came into my life for the right thing that I was looking for. And I just have learned to trust that more and more and more based on experience and watching it in your life. You know, watching God work in your lives has made me even more trustworthy of God working in mine, because I've seen it time and time again too. So yeah, sometimes quickly, sometimes later. Yeah. Thanks, Carol. Good to see you.
Lorraine, come on in.
Oh, hi there. My name is Lorraine. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Hi, Debbie. I've seen you, heard you in several retreats, and I love your talks. I was gonna say something else, but I'm just gonna say this. When you were talking about picking out some items and realizing that the plan to go ahead with your room hasn't happened yet, and there's a reason why it hasn't happened, and there's a reason why you haven't picked out that certain thing. And I've been going through this dilemma. In October, we lost our 14-and-a-half-year-old dog, and we just, I'm brokenhearted over it. And so I've been tossing it back and forth in my head. When should we get another dog? I've been looking through on the internet and all that stuff, but there's so many reasons why we should not get one right now. And people have been giving me, I've been asking advice, and people have been giving me advice, unwanted advice, some of them, that, oh, you should do it right now, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And the way I look at it is, so I have just turned the whole thing over to God. And I think that if we're supposed to get another dog, that it is going to happen in His time and in His way. And I'm probably not going to have to do a whole lot of research or anything. It's just going to happen. And I just have to tell myself that, it's in my head. It's not in my heart yet, that I do have to turn it over to God. But, and so I know that I have to do a big pause, because if I do something to rush it, it could be a big mistake, and it may turn out terribly. So thank you for that example, because that came to the forefront of my mind. And thank you for your wonderful talk.
Thanks, Lorraine. I actually had an experience regarding a dog like that. We were down, I have a 4-pet limit. So I was down to 2 pets. And so I was ready for another dog now. And I was looking, and I found this dog I liked. And I thought, not that many people are going to want this dog. This dog has medical issues. And I'll take the ones that nobody really wants. And I called and called and called. And for 3 days, I was in pursuit of this. I just knew that was supposed to be what I was to do. And when I gave up on Saturday, a sponsee of mine called me Sunday and said, hey, I know you've had Shih Tzus before. I have to let go of my 2 Shih Tzus. Would you be willing to take them? And that is why I never got the special needs dog, because I was supposed to take her 2 babies. So I've had that same story. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Jackie, will you please come in?
Hi, everybody. My name is Jackie, and I am an alcoholic. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for all the messages on this meeting tonight. I just really have had that moment of pause. And I love, Debbie, when you were talking about intuition and stuff, and to pause. Yeah. I'm going through some things myself, and we had a healthy discussion this morning about getting ready or perhaps eventually moving off of our acreage. But anyway, my question is, you had a beautiful little prayer in the morning or that you spoke of. Could you tell us what that was again? Because it helps me to, sometimes I'll say your prayer for a while until my own words fit in there. So I really liked your little prayer. If you just tell us one more time.
Sure. It's always good morning, God. Starting off with that. Thank you for another sober day and another day that I can serve you. Thank you for the many gifts you've given me, the ones I know about and the ones I don't, because I know there's a lot of things that I think I want that did not come through. Blessed be him. And show me how I can be of service to you today. And then again, like I say, if I have something that I know is coming up that day that I try to do, then relax and take it easy, bring it to God's table. And then, okay, you know, I've got this coming up today. I'm a little nervous about it, not quite sure. So I'm not sure how you want me to handle that. And I look forward, you know, kind of just conversational at that point. And then I do my 3rd and 7th step prayers out loud.
Thank you, Debbie.
Sure.
Okay, we've got 4 minutes and 2 hands. Our timing's perfect. Nash, my brother, please do come in.
Hi, everybody. Nash, Grateful Alcoholic here. Thank you, Debbie. My question is, after these prayers and morning meditation, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out ways. I'm always learning now in my recovery to try different things that I hear from people. And I'm just wondering, so after your morning meditation and whatever, throughout your day, you might get agitated, you'll pause. But do you ever redo your morning meditation or prayers that you say maybe in the middle of the day when kind of steam's running down, or would you wait until the end of your night to kind of recap everything? I want to see whether or not, like, I might be missing something when I pause. Do I need to go back to my morning prayers when I pause, or is it just something that I wait, you know, I do it once in the morning and then wait till the end of the night? I just want to see what you do.
Chatting with God all day long is just a delight. And so while I don't necessarily start my prayers over, I might coming upon a situation like that, I might just go out into our garden and just walk around with the cats and dogs, just take a loop through, be in nature for just 5-10 minutes. And I get a really different attitude about a lot of things when I do that. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. I can just go out and sit on the front lawn with the dogs and just be I'm usually on the phone most all mornings. So that keeps me occupied as well.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nash, and Debbie, of course, thank you. Sunny Day, you get to close us out. Come on in.
Wow. Sunny Day, alcoholic. I'm so grateful for this meeting. Grateful for you, Debbie. Oh, thank you for everything. I see the very metaphysical background you have. I always feel like that story is so metaphysical, you know. Thank you, Alice, and everyone for this meeting. I wanted to ask you, Debbie, with all of your years of sobriety and all of your wisdom, and I do mean that because you have a lot. Thinking. Does that ever come up for you still? What does it sound like? what voice is that and what do you say back to it? Like what? Well, yes.
Yes, I can be in the most different situations, mundane things, and whoosh, the thought of a drink after all these years will run by the front of my mind. And it feels like sometimes it leaves some of the glitter behind to create something in my head. What I know to do is change what I am physically doing so that it does not get the opportunity to begin to root itself. Maybe I go to another room or make a phone call or go wash the dishes or something. That's how I get rid of it. Another way, there was a period of time many years ago, probably 20 years ago, where every time I'd get in the shower in the morning, all the resentments of 10, 15 years ago would just be fresh. And I'd be having those conversations with nobody there in my mind that were dead long time ago, right? And the only way that I seemed to be able to shut those guys up was to put in an AA tape. And it immediately would take my mind from here to thinking about what was on that tape. And I had about a half a dozen favorites, and I just put those in. I could mimic them. I knew them so well, and I would still laugh like I was hearing it for the first time. It brought me into the present right now, just like our cats and dogs, right here, right now, right this moment. And that has helped me a great deal.
It is tragic but true that we are at the end of the Q&A. I wish that we could stay and talk to Debbie all night. Debbie, you know, when I got here, you were already 11 years into the game. Thank you so much for having the light on for me. This has been a beautiful opportunity to spend the evening with you. Teresa, all yours.